Hello and welcome to another drive-in double feature. I'm Ryan.
I'm Nathan.
And this is the podcast where we talk about two movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into anything, we got a Patreon over at patreon.com/drive-in-double-feature-podcast. Just a couple of fun games, quizzes, judging each other's opinions on movies. Just something wholesome for you guys out there, for us, giving us that support out there. You can go over there and give us a support at that on Patreon. If not, do not worry. It does not affect any regular content. But today we're going to be talking about 1981's Road Games, directed by a returning director, Richard Franklin, who is the Australian Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And starring a returning actor as well, Stacy Keach.
Yeah. And we have to preface this. Oscar winner, Jamie Lee Curtis.
I was going to say that if you weren't.
Yeah. Gotta.
We watched the Oscars together. Nathan was jumping for joy when he saw Jamie Lee Curtis won.
So happy. I think I said no when she won. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Jane. Oh, go ahead.
We didn't hate her, but we were hoping somebody else would win. But anyway, this movie, like I said, 1981 is the best way to describe it, and it's described by the director because he's a big Hitchcock fan, is that he literally just like, what if we could do Rear Window but in a car? And that's pretty much what this is. And Stacy Keach plays a trucker named Quid, and he is constantly chasing a serial killer that's been murdering young women that are hitchhikers / price prostitutes. And it's basically just like an hour and a half long car chase.
Yeah, you know what? People keep saying Rear Window, which I do see, but it actually reminds me a lot of Steven Spielberg's Duel. Instead of like, it's kind of role reversed. It's a trucker going after like an actual passenger vehicle the whole time. I thought that, I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting.
Now, I haven't seen Duel, but do you think the trucker thought that passenger car driver was a serial killer? Maybe that's why he was chasing him.
That would be funny. No, I think he was just angry at the guy. But that would be great if like the director of this was just like, oh, you know what? He thinks he's a serial killer. I'm gonna do that. But no,
well, that just proves what a hack that Steven Spielberg is. But anyway.
Exactly. No, he never did anything good.
Never. But I really, really enjoyed this one. It's very, very good.
I loved it. Yeah, it was a great movie. As I've gotten older, like, I guess I'm like every other film person. I love Hitchcock, and I love when people do Hitchcock, and this is definitely Hitchcockian, but it has a nice flair to it of all its own. I do really, this is a great movie.
It is very Hitchcockian. I mean, the director says straight up, he's like, this is not an homage, this is just a copycat movie. Those are his words.
Yeah,
but I disagree, though. I mean I do think the movie has its own style and look to it that Hitchcock normally wouldn't do. And this movie is set in Australia, so it's a very Australian movie. Like, there's a lot of Australian locations, background scenes. This movie, like, despite there being a whole lot, I mean, it does look really great. Like some of like the landscape scenes.
Well, supposedly they actually traveled this highway that they were on during the filming of this. So you actually get like a lay of the land from east to west of Australia. So you get to see a lot of that. I mean, hell, this trucker has a dingo as a pet. That's how Australian this movie is.
Yeah, he does. And everybody wants to kill this dingo.
Yeah, everywhere he goes, they're like, we could shoot your dingo right now.
Yeah, but he's very protective of Boswell.
Yeah, Boswell, yeah.
But immediately, though, I mean, like I said, I realized how much this movie was going to be different because, like, I was like, I heard good things about it, but you never are sure. But when I knew, I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be different. there's a scene where the serial killer takes a prostitute upstairs to like a hotel room, and the scene where he murders her, like how it's shot, like he opens this door and it's just like this blinding white light, like it's just like you just see a silhouette. I was like, oh wow, that looks really good.
Yeah, no, it's good. And like the woman's like playing guitar naked, and her, the way she's just strumming, and then ever so slowly she turns back to see this gloved man kill her. And I think this is one of the few actual murder scenes in this movie. So going into it, I thought it was going to be a slasher, just looking at the poster and everything. But no, this
Same
is like
here.
this is pretty much a thriller. Like that's what it is. It's not really. It's genre is put as horror, but it's not really that much of a horror movie.
And one of the reasons probably why this movie has been overlooked for so long, it was even the director and Stacy Keach both said that it was kind of marketed as a horror movie / slasher type, where, because if you look at the poster, it's a woman being strangled with like the driving gloves of the killer. So it very much looks like a slasher movie. If you're like at a video store or at the movie theater, you think you're in for like a horror movie type, but
yeah,
they even said like that's not the angle we were going for. It's very much like a thriller type of movie. So I think that's one reason why, because that it didn't do as well as they wanted. But since then, this movie's been kind of a cult classic amongst film buffs, like Quentin Tarantino, who we both adore.
Quentin Tarantino always pops up here.
He talks about this movie a lot, and I've heard him multiple times mention it. So it's been one that's kind of been in the back of my mind, but getting to finally see it for myself, I can see why it's so popular.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think one of the things that carries this movie is Stacy Keach, who we've talked about this year on the podcast. Is our second time talking about him this year. Continues to be an excellent actor. I love him in movies.
Stacy Keach has been, so like I said, I've known him from the show Titus and Fat City and Doc Now. I feel like I haven't seen like a bad performance from the guy really. And even this movie, I'm just like, he's like really good in this movie. Like if I was handing out awards, I would possibly put him on a list.
Yeah, no, I agree. So be on the lookout for Drive and Double Feature Awards, where we might award Stacy Keach. Who knows?
Yeah, we got a couple of months towards award season for us.
Yeah,
but
yeah. But no, he's just really good. I really love how he plays this. I was like, so he's a trucker. He drives a truck, but he's not a truck driver. That's his whole deal. And he's kind of neurotic, which I like that, because what he does is he has his dog there, his dingo there, and he talks to him the whole time about other people on the road. Like he'll see people drive by and he makes guesses about their life. Like, oh, he looks like an accountant, blah, blah, blah. And he's talking to himself. And I kind of like how that's played.
I'd like that too, because he talks to himself a lot, and he has like this like real witty dialogue amongst like he just says to himself, and he'll say really funny stuff. There's one scene where you don't see the car he's looking at, but all of a sudden he says, "Now there's a man with some balls," and then like the guy you like close in, and it's like a guy has like a bunch of like actual like sports equipment, like sports balls, like all on his car, like soccer balls and footballs and all that.
No, I like that. And what I like too is that the way it's laid out, it's like a bunch of people taking a road trip almost. So like he'll stop somewhere and then they'll pass by him and then he'll pass them again. So it's like you're meeting like these people over and over again on the road.
Yeah, and that's it, because after they said that, because we both watched the same documentary that was accompanied with it, but they did say that, when you're on the road, you see a lot of the same people, which is very true. Because I've driven quite a bit, like to go see my dad or whatever, and there'll be some times where like I'll pull off an exit, and then I'll like come back and like I'll catch up to like these cars, like, oh, well, there they are right there. Like, I
Yeah,
remember
no,
that car.
I always think that's so funny whenever you're like, oh yeah, there's that car. I see, there they are again. Like there's just something recognizable. It's yeah, I mean, it captures that really well. There's just something about road movies that are just really cool that like can capture like that feeling really well. But for a little, what I like is how the mystery sets up here, because it doesn't really it starts pretty fast with him looking at the window and seeing the guy's like glove, or he actually sees him take the woman, because Stacy Keach is like, oh, I could have had her tonight, but I guess I'm not. And he took his room. They took the last room at the hotel. But he slowly becomes suspicious, like that this guy had killed this woman that night. And it's not, you don't even, it's only, like, you do see it as the audience, but he doesn't really see it. So it's definitely just a hunch.
Right. Because he's wondering if he's going crazy. He's
Mhm.
wondering, like, am I just like totally just in my own little world right now and I'm making up stuff because I'm so
Mhm.
bored or whatever. Because there's a scene where there's these garbage bags that the killer puts out by the side of the road.
Mhm.
And it's implied that there's a woman in there because his dingo goes out there and like sniffs the bags, and so it's like implying there's something in there.
Yeah.
um, but he gets back on the road, and he has a rule: he doesn't take any hitchhikers up. That's his big rule. Like, I'm not allowed, because he's
Yeah.
like, I'm not allowed to because of the trucking company. But
Mhm.
there's one funny scene, because earlier in the movie he does see like a married couple arguing in the car, and he's like you said, he's making up this like backstory about them.
Yeah.
And then later he sees like the same woman like in the car,
What a
like,
wild scene.
and they get in the car together. She just like forces her way. He's like, I don't take hitchhikers. She's like, well, perfect, I'm not a hitchhiker.
Yeah. Well, I felt bad because she leaves like ribbons on the road to make him brake extremely hard, like because he has to stop for it. And the dingo like flies in the truck and like hits the front. I was like, oh, poor guy. And then I think she calls the dog ugly or something.
Yeah, she's definitely not a nice woman, but
Mhm.
what I do like is that they both start slowly getting annoyed by each other, though, because he's bored to death in the
Yeah.
car, and they literally start playing road games. And
Yeah. I think I wrote in
like,
my notes they did it.
she's like naming stuff, like, it's like, oh, well, it's a product of an animal, and he's like naming a bunch of stuff, and
Mhm.
she's like, oh, and then he's like, well, what is it? It's like, oh, it was your boots. And then he's like, ugh, like, they're not even, it's not real leather.
It's vinyl. Yeah.
And anyway, they go back and forth, they do that type of thing, and then he sees the killer like digging a hole like out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
He slams on his brakes, and the woman just like starts freaking out because he's like, oh my god, that's the killer. And it's like, well, maybe it's just a man digging. And
Yeah.
she gets freaked out and just runs out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and that gets tense because I didn't know where the movie was going to go, because they start fighting and she's on the edge of like a cliff, and he's just getting closer and closer, like, I'm not the killer, I'm not the killer, then there's nothing wrong here. And she's like, don't get close to me, and she keeps backing up, and I'm like, oh my god, she's going to fall over that cliff and now he's going to be like a killer. But that doesn't happen. She does make it out, but it was definitely a tense moment.
I thought that's what they were going with too. I thought it was going to be
Yeah.
she's going to fall, and then everyone's going to suspect him of being the killer.
Yeah, and I think that is like a good way to make a thriller, is like, I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know what
Yeah,
was going to happen.
anything that can keep you guessing like that is great.
Yeah.
Uh, but then he does eventually pick up another hitchhiker, which turns out to be Oscar winner Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, Oscar winner Jamie Lee Curtis shows up in a very early role. In that the making of thing that we watched, they kept calling her a small actress, but she was in Halloween and The
Halloween, The
Fog.
Fog.
And I was like, I mean, she starred in those movies. They weren't really small roles, but I guess it was small enough because she is like, she really isn't in this movie a lot. She's in this movie a lot less than you would expect Jamie Lee Curtis to be in a movie.
No, and they even said at the time, they're like, well, if I would have known she was going to be such a big star, I would have made the part a lot bigger.
Yeah, because I guess there was a whole deal where they had an Australian actress picked, but I guess the producers wanted an American to play that role, someone more famous. And I guess that caused a huge stink in Australia about this movie.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, it's totally fine. She does a good job in it. I mean, she's pretty good in it. Not a completely memorable role, but
She's Jamie Lee Curtis. You know, she's usually pretty likable in movies. She does the role well because she's like an underage hitchhiker, and her and Stacy Keach kind of just share banter, play some road games too. So
she they have a much better chemistry together. Like, I actually like the chemistry between the two of them. I thought they paired very well together.
Yeah,
and they playing off each other, and they have like this campfire scene at the end of the night where they kind of get together and they're just kind of talking about their past and like what they want out of this. And he starts telling her about the killer, and that kind of gets her excited and like, oh yeah, let's find out. And then they do finally catch up to the killer at this truck stop bathroom.
Yeah,
and he thinks he's cornered the killer in the bathroom stall, and Jamie Lee Curtis thinks the killer's in the bathroom stall. So she's like, I'm going to go investigate his van, or what, the killer's van. But turns out it was a completely different guy, which is a really funny scene.
I know it ends up being really funny because, like, could you imagine being in the bathroom stall and just getting yelled at by some guy like, "You're the killer. I know you did it. You buried their body out in the desert."
And then he also has Stacy Keach also brought the dingo, and they're like threatening, like, this guy's gonna murder you. He's gonna rip you to shreds. And then the guy comes out, and he's just like, oh, like a completely scared looking.
I can almost assume that this could be added to our Drive and Double feature like list of movies where the guy didn't wipe because he was probably too scared to wipe. He was just needed to get out of there.
Well, I mean, he could have maybe, but we don't.
I guess we don't know.
Maybe that's why he didn't say anything, because he was too busy wiping. But
yeah, that's true. But no, I just couldn't even imagine being in that situation. But no, the murderer actually ends up kidnapping Jamie Lee Curtis at this point.
Yeah, and she's pretty much out of the movie until the very end.
Yep, she's gone. And I like that. I think that's a good angle to take it, because you don't know what happened to her. By the time the end of the movie, I mean, well, we're getting the spoilers now, but it's an old movie. You would expect her to be dead. I thought she was dead. I thought she was dead and gone. And that's not actually the angle they take. I was like, okay, that's actually interesting.
Well, yeah, because at this point, this is what differs between this movie and the Tuesday movie, is that we're invested in these characters, so we actually care about them.
Yes.
And so now that she's kidnapped, we actually want to see her get rescued. And Stacy Keach, he goes on a really frantic car chase, like in the truck, and he's just wanting to chase him down. And another funny scene is when he's at a weigh station, and they're weighing him and all that, and the guy like keeps wanting to just like do chit chatting with him, and like, oh, you want to come inside, have a cup of coffee? He's like, no, I'm good, thanks. I gotta go. And then he's like, oh, hey, you got something wrapped around your axle? I can go snip it off in a couple of minutes. No, just leave it. I gotta go.
Yeah. Wow. And it's a very relaxed trucking thing, because he's like 70 kilos over the weight limit, and the guy's like, oh, no worries. What are you stashing a stolen TV in there? What? That would not be happening today.
No, weigh stations take that stuff very seriously.
Yes. But another funny scene that happens before is there's the guy driving the car with towing the boat.
Oh, forgot about that one. Yeah.
What an insane scene, because what happened earlier is the truck sped around him, so he's angry. And now the guy that's towing the boat is blocking him from going over. He's blocking every lane so he can't pass him. And you know what? Stacy Keach just ends up destroying this guy's boat. But it's not Stacy Keach's fault at all.
No, that guy was being a jerk. So he's just like, all right, well, if you're not going to get me in a room, I'm just going to ram you.
Yeah. And this boat gets destroyed into smithereens.
Yeah, that was a crazy scene.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good scene. This movie does a good job. The camera work in it is like amazing. It does a great job of like building tenseness in like you're literally just watching one guy follow a car, but like it does a lot of cool stuff. Like there's a really great scene of him following the serial killer, and the camera pans like forward, or sorry, zooms forward into the mirror so you can see the guy's eyes like look at him through the mirror. It was just really cool.
Yeah, it does a lot of really cool stuff in there, and there's a lot of really tense moments. And skipping forward to the ending, he's kind of trying to find where the killer is, and it's kind of implied that when he goes into the back of his meat truck, he's thinking that one of the dead pigs may be Jamie Lee Curtis's body.
Yeah, that scene is something else. Yeah, where it's so slow too, and he just slowly like goes up to the pig carcass he's like towing.
I was on the edge of my seat on that scene. I was just like, I was so interested to see how that scene was going to play out. Which, they do that, and then at the very end of the movie, he does finally catch up to the killer. He corners the killer in an alleyway.
Yeah.
He drives his semi truck on top of him. And I thought they were going to go with the route. I thought like they were going to blame the whole thing on Stacy Keach.
Yeah.
Like that Jamie Lee Curtis was going to be dead in the van, and that they were going to blame Stacy Keach for that.
Yeah, I was about to be so angry. Like I was sitting there and I was like, this is where they're going, because everybody that he's screwed over on the road pretty much catches up to him. You know, that lady's like, oh, he almost killed me off, threw me off the cliff and all this, and like how crazy and paranoid he's been. And the cops have him down and the killer's walking away, and I was seriously like, oh my God, they're really he's gonna get away with it. It's gonna happen.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah. I will say, and this dude gets so paranoid. Just a cool little thing I gotta bring up is there's a scene where he's talking to himself, but in the background audio is his mind also running. So like you hear two audio tracks of him talking.
Oh yeah.
That was really cool. But no, that it does end up working for the better. Jamie Lee Curtis is alive. She is not dead.
I do like though, like they pulled her out, and immediately like her and Stacy Keach just start arguing. Like, I thought you said he was in the bathroom. and he's like, will you stop yelling at me? I've had a bad day. And they asked, the cops were like, who was it that kidnapped you? He's like, it was him, obviously.
Yeah. And they finally get him. This guy was about to get away like scot-free. He was just backing out. But I mean, a cop did go, where do you think you're going, to him? So
yeah, it was a good fake out, because I literally thought it was just gonna do like the ultimate just like F you ending or whatever. So
yeah, and we get a small epilogue, but it ends pretty much after that, where like they're walking away and he's talking about so like how much money he has to pay for his truck, but it looks like Jamie Lee Curtis and Stacy Keach are gonna be good friends.
Well, didn't they say like she was an heiress or whatever? So
yeah, I think so. Yeah, because she's running away, but like her dad was rich or like somebody notable.
Right. But it all works out, and it's really good. I mean, like I said, I mean, I went in there with pretty high expectations beforehand, and it met almost all of them. So I was very, very, very satisfied with this movie.
No, it's a great thriller. I think it's a really fun movie. I think it's definitely worth checking out. Just really great. It's good. I need to watch more of this guy's movies, because I love this and Psycho too. So I mean, he's got to see some more.
I did look at his filmography after this, and I know he did the movie Cloak and Dagger.
Oh,
And
yes, I've always wanted to talk about that on the show, actually.
oh, it's been so long since I watched that one, but I
Yeah.
do remember seeing it. But there's after that, I didn't see anything real notable,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
It looks like
I
he
think
did like straight to DVD stuff.
if we were going to talk about another one of his movies, it would probably be Patrick, which was supposedly like his big breakout movie. The movie he
Yeah.
did right before that was the movie he did before Road Games.
Gotcha.
So
And it looks like he did the sequel to FX, which FX is like a cool horror. So if we like FX, maybe we'll watch FX too. Who knows?
the TV show, the TV channel.
Yeah. He invented the TV channel that now runs just Simpsons all day long. Oh no, that's FXX.
Simpsons, Archer, Bob's Burgers, or whatever.
Yep, that's it.
It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, Always Sunny.
Richard Franklin directed an episode of It's Always Sunny.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But no, we both give it a very high recommend. Check it out. It's definitely worth checking out and seeing for yourself. But Nathan, what are we going to be talking about next time?
All right, so next time we're bringing it back. We're doing another anime week. We're gonna do a couple anime movies next week.
Woo!
Yeah,
I know you're excited.
Oh yeah, I'm not picking Overfiend 2. I'm sorry, guys.
You got your Naruto headband on. You got your Super Saiyan hair up.
My Hello Kitty shirt on. Whatever else, I don't know. Fairly Odd Parents shoes. Avatar: The Last Airbender pants. Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah. But no, for Tuesday, we are going to be talking about Memories, which is an anthology anime movie from 1995. And that is streaming over on Amazon Prime and Tubi.
Fantastic. Cannot wait. But if you would like to talk to us at all, you can email us over at driveindoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at DIDFpod. And once again, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/driveindoublefeaturepodcast. But until next time.